We are here this evening with Dr. Denise Pope from Stanford University. She's the co-founder of Challenge Success, which is a research and intervention project that aims to reduce unhealthy pressure on youth and champions a broader vision of youth success. She's here with us at the NYSAIS College Counselors Conference and has just spoken to our college counselors about how this organization can work with families and schools to help reduce student stress in the college admissions process. So it was wonderful to hear your talk, first of all.
Thanks.
And I'd love to know what inspired you to do the work that you're doing with Challenge Success.
I started out my career as a high school English teacher, and I was seeing this, this was over 20 years ago, and I was seeing kids who were playing the game, who were doing school then, and I ended up doing my doctoral work where I shadowed 5 students for an entire school year from September to June and saw a lot of game playing. This was a high achieving school. These were great kids getting great grades, going on to great colleges, but they weren't necessarily learning and retaining the information, and on top of that, they were really stressed and having some medical issues. So this is what sort of spurred, the book actually spurred this. The director of the health center at Stanford read the book, called me in and said, we need an intervention because we get the aftermath of your kids here at Stanford and at colleges all over the US, and we can't have these kinds of mental health crises and real disengaged kids, even though they were getting straight A's, playing the game.
So in your writings and the research that you've done, how do you define success?
That's a great question. So we define success first and foremost as you have to be healthy. If you're not healthy, nothing else matters. If you're too anxious to get out of bed in the morning, I don't care how great of a school you go to, right? It's just not going to work for you. So first and foremost is health and well-being, and then the second level up from that would be engagement. The jobs that these kids are going to have are going to change over time. You have to love learning, you have to be able to know how to learn, and you have to be willing and motivated and engaged in doing it. And unless you have both of those things, I really don't think you can say you have a school where kids are thriving.
What do you see as the kinds of things that parents worry most about, particularly in the college admissions process?
Well, so what we hear from parents is they're very worried that their kid is not going to get into a certain level school that will allow them opportunities in life that the parent had or didn't have, depending. They're very worried about return on investment. They're worried about finances and how will I pay for college. And I think we do hear from them that they're worried, are they going to be happy there, and what is it going to be like when they leave the home? I think there's some worry and fear there.
You talked a little bit, I think, in your talk about the fear that somehow it would reflect badly on them.
Yes. Yes.
How much do you think that plays into it?
Well, this is why they have their college t-shirts and sweatshirts and bumper stickers on the car, and I think, and particularly probably independent school-going parents are thinking about status and networking and peers, and I think there is a fear of, well, I've had a parent say to me, how can I say to my colleagues at work that my son is going to go to a community college? And we've just spent a lot of money on his high school, and he thinks of that as therefore we should be able to get into better than a community college. When in fact, maybe that community college is the exact right fit for his kid, and his kid's gonna find what he loves and find his passion and end up pursuing his dream or transferring to a 4-year. And I know for many states, New York is one of them, that the community college, and California is one of the, there are many states, the community colleges are the first that the 4-year colleges look at in terms of transfer students. So it's actually a really nice way to get into some of the state colleges that kids otherwise might not get into.
And so, by contrast, what do kids most worry about?
Kids most worry about letting their parents down. That is huge. They do not want to let you down. Whether it looks like that or not, they're deep inside of them. We hear, when we ask, what do you worry about when it comes to college, we hear, I won't get into as good a school as my brother, and that will make me look bad. They also worry about finances. They worry that they want to major in something that they're really passionate about, that their parents won't let them major in because of return on investment, or they're worried that if they major in art history, let's say, that they're not going to be able to support themselves.
Well, you mentioned just a minute ago about the whole sweatshirt branding kind of thing. Sweatshirt Day and the celebrations and the publishing of the college list and the school website, etc. What is the actual effect of all of this on schools, on parents, on kids?
It's really tricky because I think people mean well. They want to celebrate the success of each and every kid. And I think they think that that is a celebration. And what we're finding is because of the stress to get in and because of the pressures and because of really the changed system now, it's not a celebration for many kids. It's actually a degradation ceremony. And so we've actually found kids who will make up where they're going to school. They're really going to a state college and instead they say they're going to University of California or something like that, because they're too embarrassed to say this college that they've chosen and that really could be a great fit for them, but it doesn't look good. And so when you make something public like that, with it's Sweatshirt Day or the list in the graduation program, or there are some schools that announce it as you get your diploma. You know, they say the kid's name and they say Princeton University, and then what kid wants to walk across the stage after that, right? It's really hard. So instead we want them to celebrate the fact that kids are going to college. It could be everybody's going to college day, you know, other ways to celebrate without really putting that pressure on. There's so much pressure on kids as it is. You're adding a layer of pressure by announcing and wearing the sweatshirts and having the signing days, which they do for sports and arts and whatnot. It's a lot of pressure.
So do you advocate just not doing those things?
So we would advocate not doing those things. And what we would rather people do is celebrate the variety of colleges that kids have applied to or are going to, right? So say that they, instead of saying the name, say they're going to over 100 different colleges, right? Really show the variety. You can spotlight the new colleges that have never been attended before. And that those should not just be the top tops. It should be the wide variety, right? This year we have kids that we've never had kids go to these schools before. Look how great that variety is, something like that. Another school does a big map without the names of the colleges, and they just show the different states that the kids are going to and show how popular certain states are and how popular some aren't. You know, there's lots of different ways to do it if you feel you have to do something. I know for some schools they feel that they have to put it on their website because this is how they get parents to apply to the school, that they are, college prep is in their name and they need to show that they're college prep. You can do that without tying it to a particular kid's name or making a big deal out of certain schools and not others. You can list all the schools, including the community colleges then, that your graduates are going to. List every single one.
It's a great idea. The book that was recently published that you collaborated on, Overloaded and Underprepared. Can you talk a bit about how the ways in which kids are overloaded?
Yeah, so the number one answer to our question, what if anything causes you stress and why, is overload. It's homework, it's tests, it's grades, it's just this load that kids are taking because they feel they need to in order to get into the selective colleges. We have kids taking more AP level, which are college level classes, than college students take in a semester, right? That's crazy. And they've got other classes that they have to do too, and they don't have the freedom of a college schedule, right? They have to go and be in school from 7:30 to 3. They have multiple sports and multiple extracurriculars, and they're on the debate team and Model United Nations, and half the time they're doing this because they think it's a way to get into college. They're padding their resumes. To be fair to the kids, a lot of them actually enjoy what they're doing, but there's just too much. And what we say is, it's like when you eat at a buffet table, right? You can't gorge yourself at the buffet. You can't take a full plate of everything at the buffet and keep going back and back. That's what they're doing with these AP and honors classes and these extracurriculars. Take a balanced plate and step away from the buffet. And a balanced plate means that you're able to sleep 8 to 10 hours a night every night. You're able to get your homework done and still have some time for fun and play and social life and some extracurriculars. It's a balance that we're after. And so many kids are out of balance.
And the flip side of that, on the title of the book, is underprepared.
Yeah.
So in what ways do you find that kids are underprepared for college?
So here's the irony of the whole thing, is that these are wonderful schools academically. They're teaching kids how to write, they're teaching kids how to take the tests and do the work, but they're forgetting the whole rest of the child that has to be ready for college too. You have to have social emotional learning skills. You have to have ways to deal with stress and positive coping strategies. You have to have life skills like how to manage a bank account and how to do your laundry. These kids are so uber focused on their grades that they're not focused on these really, really important things that we want our citizens and our college students certainly to have. And I think, you know, I joke around and I say to parents, hire a tutor for take out the trash instead of hire a math tutor. Because that kid doing chores is much better off than the kid who's not doing chores and studying extra time for the math test. Really focus on what matters to be a person and what matters to have a fulfilled, exciting, engaging life, right? It's not the grades, it's not the name of the college.
You talked and explained a little bit about the mission of Challenge Success.
Mm-hmm.
Could you explain what that is?
Sure. So we partner with schools and communities to broaden this very narrow notion of success that people tend to have today, which is you've got to get into the right school, get the grades, get into the right school, get the high-paying job, and prove you'll be happy. And we know that that's not true. And so our name is Challenge Success, and we flip the word success backwards on our logo because we're saying, no, success is not measured at the end of the semester or at the end of 12 years by where you go to college. Success is measured over the course of a lifetime, right? And you want kids to be happy and healthy and have purpose and have good relationships over the course of their lifetime. And that takes a wide variety of skills, and there's not one path to success. There are many, many, many messy paths to success. So we work with schools to help them make changes to their policies and practices, whether it's their bell schedule or their homework policy or how they talk about college at their school, to make sure that we're ensuring student well-being and real engagement with learning instead of just playing the game and doing school just to kind of check off the boxes and get in.
Can you also talk about rankings?
Yes.
And how that all plays in and is kind of the elephant in the room?
So there's more than just the U.S. News and World Report. There are several rankings. However, if you look at many of them, they are arbitrary in what they choose to look at and how they choose to weight what they're measuring. So let's take graduation rate. U.S. News and World Report uses graduation rate, gives it about 30% of a weight in its overall ranking. They're not looking at 4-year, they're looking at 6-year graduation rate, and they're looking at something called a proposed graduation rate. It's very murky. The next highest level in the U.S. News and World Report is peer reputation. And again, very arbitrary. There's no way that a college counselor who fills out the peer reputation metrics or a president of a university could possibly know everything about all 500 schools in order to fill those out correctly. And yet that is about 25% of the U.S. News and World Report ranking. So already we're over 50% with things that are not precise and really subjective, and not what parents and kids really care about in a college. Because the things that they really care about are hard to measure, right? They want to go to a place where they're going to have friends, they like the social scene, they will find mentors, they will be engaged. And it turns out that that's what really matters in a school, not how high on the rankings it scores, but what the child does when they're at the school, how engaged they are at the school. Are they finding mentors? Are they applying what they're learning? Are they participating in community in some way, whether that's a sport or a faith group or whatever it is? That's what really matters, and that's hard to measure. So the U.S. News and World Report and the other rankings, very similar rankings, measure these other things and create this frenzy that really should not be.
So how do you define fit?
Yeah.
How do you define actual fit of a student for a particular institution?
That's a great question. Everybody talks about finding fit, and it's this murky thing. Nobody really knows what it is. We define it based on the research that shows what matters when you go to school is where you will be engaged, where you will be fully engaged at a school, whether that's extracurriculars, whether that's with a professor who knows you and inspires you, whether that's with hands-on learning and internships and simulations where you can apply what you've learned. There are many, many, many schools out there that will allow kids to do that, but it's going to be different for each kid. So finding your fit to us, based on the research, is finding a place where you will thrive fully in the school and be able to really delve in and do what matters so that you will have the outcome you want, which is you'll learn a lot, you will know what you're doing when you get out, you'll have job satisfaction, and you will have health and well-being, and you will truly thrive.
Where do you think students lack readiness? You talked a bit in your talk about readiness. And
Yeah.
where are the places where students,
Well,
where you see students lacking it?
For sure, we see students lacking readiness in terms of social emotional skills, right? Can they look you in the eye and have a conversation about what matters and is exciting to them? Can they cooperate and work well with others? Can they bounce back from a setback? Are they resilient? Do they have a growth mindset where they feel like I can do this if I try and put my head to it and put in effort? Not, you know, I'm a bad math student. So we know that they need those skills, but they also don't have basic life skills, right? They don't know how to manage a budget or a checkbook. They don't know how to cook a meal besides cereal. They don't know how to live with others in a roommate situation, all of which are really important, not just for college, but also beyond college. So we spend a lot of time hiring a tutor for calculus when we really should be hiring a tutor for a whole bunch of other things. And really, as parents and schools, focus on the full child, the whole child. Schools often give lip service to this, but if you look at what you're really measuring and emphasizing with your valedictorian reward and your academic honors and your sport accolades, you're really probably not honoring what you truly want to honor as a school.
So what are some of the bright spots that you see? Some of the things that you're hopeful about?
So one thing I see is that schools really are making changes where they are saying, no matter what, we want our kids to be healthy. So they're not allowing kids to take schedules that are not healthy. They're changing their bell schedules so that you have fewer classes a day and longer periods so you can go deeper. They're changing how they teach. They're changing how they assess, so it's not 4 or 5 tests a week. So schools are making really nice inroads in terms of student health and well-being. They're creating advisory, they're looking at mindfulness and meditation and teaching positive coping strategies and really putting a spotlight on social emotional learning as well. So the schools are doing some great things. Big picture, I also see things changing in the college landscape. We've got deans signing on to Turning the Tide, which is saying we're going to be more mindful about the messaging that we give as people are applying. We're going to be more transparent. We're going to be looking for more than just GPA and number of extracurriculars. We have something called the Mastery Transcript Consortium, where the GPA as we know it in 10 to 12 years may just completely disappear. And we're going to be looking at a mastery-based system where you're not giving an A in algebra and a B in calculus and then putting that on a transcript. You're going to actually have a mastery scale for computational thinking. And the college admissions officer can click on that and see evidence of the student learning right there. That's happening. That's happening. We're starting the pilot, with actual kids applying to colleges this year. So there's a lot of things out on the horizon. The other thing I think is that we're seeing this reality of there's no way that the best and brightest kids are going to get into only the top selective schools as measured by this arbitrary system. And so we do see parents really being more open to applying to schools that they never heard of, to looking at financial aid packages at a wide variety of schools instead of mortgaging, 2 mortgages on a home to get them to the most selective school that the kid gets into. We're really looking at, and this gives me hope, a much better attitude about what is college for, having people ask kids why they're going instead of where they're going, really looking for a match instead of just, a name for a bumper sticker for your car.
Well, these are certainly hopeful signs.
Yes.
So thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.